Hello everyone, how are you all? Hope that you are having an amazing day. I'm Mohammad Naeem Amin Bhatti and today we are going to discuss the summary of The Top Girls written by Caryl Churchill. So the very first scene is from the character Marlene, a London businesswoman hosts a dinner party at the nice restaurant to celebrate a recent promotion. Her guests are not friends, but they are from the historical figures. She never invited the friend, family members, or the co-workers, etc. However, they are women plucked from the history, art, and myth. Among them, we have discussed it in the character analysis in our previous video. If you don't have any idea about the characters, you can go to the previous video. The link is given in the description. So talk about the guest of the Marlin, the Isabella Bird, which is basically a 19th century writer and explorer. Lady Lijo is basically a 13th century concubine. Dulgret is the subject of the Flemish Renaissance painting, and Pop John is basically a woman who disguised herself as a man for the number of the several years, and it's taken from the Middle Ages. And Patent Griselda is a character from the stories of Boccaccio and Chaucer, whose obedience to her husband and the face the horrible mistreatment. All the diners at that time, they talk about they eat well, and they talk about their painful lives, their motherhood love, their striking similar coincidence and disappointments, and the emerging thoughts, and actually the women suffering from stem from the crushing violence of the life lived on the terms of the patriarchy. So after that, the following Monday, the party was over, and the following Monday, Marlene is back to her job, to the Top Girls Employment Agency. And here, a woman named Jenny, who hopes that she will be selected, but at that time, the opportunity was not granted to her, and she is sharing her plans with any perspective to the employers. Her preparation for the role was as a wife, ostensibly a mother will hurt her chances for getting higher. So if we talk about the action which is going to move on, and backyard of the Marlin sister Joyce, it is basically the play in the fragmentation form, and at the end of the play all the fragments are jointed. So where the Joyce, the 16 years old daughter Angie, and Angie's 12 years old friend Kit play in the basically street, and both of them are teasing each other and in the yards, and calls the other names of the girls. And after that, Joyce calls her adopted daughter, and basically she don't answer. She tells them to stay in the fort and die, and Joyce goes back to inside the house, and Angie reveals that she is soon going to go to the London to visit her aunt, who is her actual mother. And she talked with the kid that she had gifted basically a dress to her in her last visit, and she will definitely wore out that dress and will go to her mother, and she will kill her mother. Angie reveals that she had put the dress on to kill her mother, and Kit implies that Angie is too chicken to go through with it, and Angie puts the brick down. Back at the Top Girls Employment Agency, that is, two of Marlon's co-worker Vin and Nell are gossiping each other, and basically they thought that now Marlon has become managing director, and she had come to the office late. Vin interviews a woman named Louise, a woman in her 40s who wants to move out to the job, and she been at 21 years in order to make her employees feel sorry for never having noticed her to prompted her for her hard work, and she was also rejected with the interview. And Marlin exhibits some of uncertainty about housing Angie. Angie becomes upset and asks if Marlin doesn't want her around. Basically, Angie has been to London, and she is near want to live near the Marlin. And Marlin overcompensates and tells Angie that she can stay as long as she wants. A woman enters the office looking for Marlin, and she is Mrs. Kidd. So Angie is sitting in the office of Marlene, and Mrs. Kidd asks her to skip the job for her husband, but Marlene is disagree with this opinion, and she says that she will never skip her job for any male person of the society. So this is a miserable and lonely condition. Before living in a huff, Marlene tells Angie that she has to go to take care of some business and leaves Angie alone in her office. Nell interviews a young woman named Shona, and it becomes clear over the course of the interview that Shona has lied about everything on her resume, so she also was rejected at that time. So now Angie falls asleep, and Nell comes back into the main office with the news that Howard has suffered a heart attack. Marilyn returns to find Angie asleep, and Vin tells the Marlene that Angie wants a job at the agency, but Marlene says that Angie wouldn't ever be anything more than the beggar or a grocery store at a grocery store, and she tells that other woman flatly that Angie is not going to make it. So the action transitions to Joy's house 1 years earlier. So this is a fragmentation. Now all the happenings are 1 years earlier, and after reading these happenings, we will come to know about the happening that we have studied earlier. All the things will conjoined, and after joining these happenings, we will come to know the real story. So Angie has an basically unbeknownst to Joyce summoned Marlene for a visit, and Marlene has arrived bearing the numerous presents for both the Angie and Joyce. Angie opens one of her parcel and finds the fancy dress from the first act, which was basically she has worn up in the first act. And after that, right away, Angie is clearly thrilled by Marlene's presence, but Joyce is less than happy to have her sister around. Marlene and Joyce begin drinking whiskey and catching up, but Angie is confused by Joyce and Marlene shared the memories and soon goes off to bed. Joyce tells the Marlene that she is worried about Angie, who has been remedial classes for 2 years, and Marlene and Joyce become discussing the mother who is in nursing home nearby, and Marlene reveals that she went to a visit to her earlier in the day. This angers Joyce, who is upset that Marlene, after having left their hometown years ago, returns only every 5 or so years on or to him and has no real part in her own life. Their mother, so Angie's, and Marlene defends herself for choosing to leave, but Joyce berates her Marlene for having left her own daughter behind, and Marlene claims that Joyce was all too happy agree and raise Angie as her own after Marlene had an unwanted pregnancy, but Joyce confides that Marlene that Angie has in fact been a burden to her, and Marlene becomes upset and Joyce comforts her, and two of women switch to the subject and they begin to talk about the politics. They talk about the current prime minister there, and they talk about the different things, but Angie came at that moment, and she asks her that is she had a bad nightmare or dream. So she says that frightening. If we talk about theme, the basic theme of this drama are life under the patriarchy and women's stories. After that, it discuss about the power, success, and individualism and motherhood. These are some of the important themes. If we talk about the symbolism, the Top Girls Employment Agency is itself a symbol which talk about the only the feministic perspectives and opposition to the patriarchal society. So that's it from today's lecture. Till the next video, it's goodbye from me.